time for Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla. Stay tuned for insights, impact, and inspiration right here on Channel Africa. Available on the Channel Africa app. Tsepiso Makwetla winds it down on Africa World Hour, 9 to 10 p.m.
And it brings the time to 2100 hours Central African time. You are listening, watching Channel Africa live on the DSTV channel app or DSTV app. We are on audio channel 802. And of course, this is the show that comes to you Mondays to Friday, 9 to 10 p.m. as we bring you 60 minutes of the very latest news developments in and around your world, whether you're listening from the heart of Africa or other parts of the globe. We'd like to hear your perspectives. We bring you the faces, the voices, the perspectives of the people who are leading these stories. And of course, we'd like to hear your thoughts on some of it. Reach out to us, +27 63 406 9126. Here's a look at your top stories.
It's time for Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla. Stay tuned for insights, impact, and inspiration right here on Channel Africa. Available on the Channel Africa app.
And our top stories is how the debate over Zimbabwe's proposed constitutional amendments continues days after its first made headlines. The country's ruling ZANU-PF party wants to extend presidential terms from 5 to 7 years and transfer the election of the president from the public to parliament. Zimbabwean political commentator and former journalist Jelisi Mawarira says the changes have been criticized as being designed to benefit President Emmerson Mnangagwa.
If we change section 92, subsection 3, so that the president is now no longer elected directly by the people and transfer that right to parliament, what it effectively means is that we have disenfranchised more than 6 million registered voters in Zimbabwe. So the changes that are being proposed here, because the president chaired the cabinet which proposed those changes, have a net effect of going against the very foundational reasons why the war of liberation was fought, which is universal suffrage. One man, one vote, they said that time.
The World Health Organization has called for countries to mitigate the health funding crisis experienced in 2025 with innovative financing. The world body says financing is not a one-size-fits-all and would depend on the specific country. However, Africa Regional Director Dr. Mohamed Yaqub Janabi says governments must prioritize availing sufficient health resources.
There are a number of things which can be done. Debt for health swaps. You know, the amount of money the continent is paying in servicing debts which we took from the Northern Bloc. In some countries, I can combine the education and health. Still, the money they are paying for servicing is higher. So we need to discuss with our partners in the Northern Bloc the debt for health. We have to bring the private sector in the play, the civil society, the philanthropy. It cannot be things like local manufacturing. We encourage all the governments. The political commitment is there, but they should look also on the business part.
And we continue now with Zambia's Minister of Justice, Princess Kusuna, saying that it is not in the country's interest to step away from global cooperation and growing threats to human rights. Kusune was addressing the 61st session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, where she urged for member states to strengthen unity and international cooperation to safeguard human rights.
We meet at a time when the global human rights system is under extreme pressure. Some question its fairness and values, while others suggest we step away from it. But Zambia believes that stepping away is not the answer. Rather, the times require that we enhance international cooperation to help overcome the challenges we are facing.
A medical charity in Sudan says 28 people have been killed in an attack by the paramilitary rapid support forces in Mastariha in North Darfur State. The Sudan Doctors Network says the only health center in the area was destroyed in the attack. Local media say the RSF has targeted a tribal leader who had switched his loyalty from RSF to the army. Here are the reports that he escaped the attack. A further field gunmen in Pakistan have attacked a police van in the city of Kohat, killing at least 5 officers, one of them highly ranking. Several other people were injured. The BBC's Peter Hyde has more.
Officials say gunmen attacked a police van which was on patrol and then set it on fire. A number of civilians are also said to have been caught up in the violence. Police sent reinforcements to seal off and search the area. It's the latest in a series of clashes in the region, which is in northwestern Pakistan near the Afghan border. Over the weekend, Pakistan said it struck 7 militant hideouts in response to recent suicide bombings. On Monday, President Zardari said more cross-border airstrikes might be coming.
And finally, China has imposed restrictions on dual-use exports to 20 major Japanese industrial companies, accusing them of boosting a military build-up in Japan. Components which have a civilian application but can also be used in military equipment will either be blocked from the sale or require specific clearance for export. Here's the BBC's Stephen McDonnell.
Japanese industrial giants, including Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Subaru and the country's space agency, have had restrictions imposed on what products they can import from China. Beijing has accused Japan of remilitarizing, and now the country's Commerce Ministry has released a list of 20 Japanese entities which are blocked from buying so-called dual-use technologies from China. Details of the specific products have not been released. A further 20 Japanese entities have been put on a watch list, and exporting dual-use items to them requires clearance. The Chinese government said the measures would not hurt normal trade with Japan.
Africa World Hour. Africa World Hour. Unpacking global headlines from an African perspective.
7 minutes past 9, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has welcomed the return of 4 men who were trapped in Russia after allegedly being recruited to serve the Russian army. The 4 are part of a group of 17 men who fell victim to the alleged syndicate to remain in Russia, with one in hospital in Moscow, while another is awaiting the finalization of his travel arrangements. The SABC's Kailihle Kumalo has more.
The group was lured into the battle lines between Russia and Ukraine by local elements that remain under investigation. The South African authorities are working closely with their Russian counterparts. President Ramaphosa has expressed his gratitude to President Vladimir Putin. The South African embassy in Moscow will continue to monitor the individual that is still in hospital until he has fully recovered to travel. The investigation into the circumstances that led to the recruitment of these young men into mercenary activities is ongoing.
And that was colleague Kailihle Kumalo. Now, for a look at the impact of the recruitments, what it's been like on the men's families, we are joined now by Jabulani Kumalo, who speaks on behalf of the families. Mr. Kumalo, very good evening to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Good evening, ma'am.
Okay, can you just tell us if you have a relative that was part of the group that returned or one that is still abroad?
No. I don't have a family member that is part of this group. I came to know about this because those people that traffic our men use the MK party as a entity for them to traffic these people. And because I'm the founder of MK, I started getting calls from the families to say, please, can you assist us? Because the people that has trafficked our men to Russia are now not helping us. So that's how I came in. Then I started helping them.
Okay, Kumar, I'm going to ask you to please switch your video back on. While you do that, can you help answer the question on the connection between MK and these young men who found themselves there?
Yes. What has happened is that when these men were recruited, They were recruited under the name of Umkhonto weSizwe to be to go to Russia for the training as bodyguards for the leadership of Umkhonto weSizwe Party, of which we, as the directors and the founders of MKP, we were not happy with that, because they were using the party for a wrong reason. That's when we then decided, no, when these calls came, we will then fight these people who have sold our men to the war in Russia.
Were you able to establish, and again, I'm going to ask you, Bab Khumalo, please switch on your video, as this is a live interview and we're doing it via Zoom. Were you able to establish who within MK was responsible for this operation, and do you know if these young people knew what they're getting themselves into? So I hope you have heard my request that you please switch on your video.
I'm trying, but it keeps on running away. I don't know why.
Okay. Perhaps let's just take a quick break and then come back to you, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Ritmos e Cultura, com Jacob Tivani. E os ouvintes do Ritmos e Cultura, hoje em linha com uma das grandezas da música moçambicana, porque não? Ele que é um dos kings da marrapenta, uma bermuda in the building.
É um prazer enorme estar a fazer parte deste programa. Deixe-me só saudar. Boa tarde a todos os ouvintes que me ouvem neste preciso momento. Meu nome é Uma Bermuda, de Alau Fanelo Estarapo, Gajo Aguta Canhela é Mabiscato. Eu vou saudar de uma maneira diferente. Ah, Tita Buia, Manango, Tiduma Tifika Guiane. Ah, Tita Buia, Manango, Tiduma Tifika Guiane. Ani motive lo ababa yena otiva mina haikonama. Ani motive lo anona yena otiva wahimbo wadwa. Cá estou eu, irmão, para conversarmos, para falarmos um pouco de tudo. Estou aqui, estou aberto. Eu estou muito feliz porque é a primeira vez que eu falo nesta rádio, falo para os ouvintes, então estou muito feliz.
Ritmos e Cultura com Jacob Tivani. Todos os domingos, das 20 às 21 horas.
Africa World Hour. Africa World Hour. Unpacking global headlines from an African perspective.
And let's go back to that top story that we're pursuing. We're speaking to Jabulani Khumalo, who is speaking on behalf of the families of the young men who found themselves on the front lines of Russia's war with Ukraine. And he says his involvement is as a result of these families reaching out to him, as he says, as a founder of MK. He says he was, in fact, just about to explain to us how MK got involved in this and what was the role of those MK members who, their involvement in terms of these young men finding themselves abroad. Mr. Khumalo, you back with us?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. So can you just explain to us who in MK was involved in the recruitment? Was this something known to MK?
No, ma'am. This was not known to us as the directors and the founders of MKP. But what happened is that those people that hijacked Umkhonto weSizwe from us, which is Duduzile Sambula Zuma and her father, Jacob Zuma, they are the people that were involved in this recruitment and in the arrangement, sending the men to Russia to be mercenaries, instead of what they loot them to be a job to train as a bodyguard.
You are saying this as a matter of fact. You are not saying it's an allegation. You are saying categorically that she is guilty of that. And if this is the case, what evidence, what proof is there of it? Because she has denied the allegations in the past.
Well, she has denied the allegation and went and opened the case, which was the evidence, which is evidence enough for her to say that she knew, because she says she was also misled by the agent in Russia. So that means she did recruit these men and send them to Russia through that agent from Russia.
Let's talk about these young men. What have they reported back on how they left the country? What happened when they arrived in Russia?
According to the information that we were given by the parents or the families that contacted us, was that these men, when they were recruited, they were told that they are going to work to get the training in Russia. Their passports were arranged. Their visas were also arranged. And all they needed was their bags with their bodies to get into the plane and go to Russia to start the training.
So when they arrived in Russia, what happened?
When they arrived in Russia, they were given forms, which was in a Russian language to fill. They saying they started by refusing, but Tutuzile encouraged them and said to them, no, look guys, this is authentic. I have also signed it. I'm also here, so you don't need to be worried. Just sign, because this is what it is. So explaining in English from the form. Then they signed the form, understanding that what she was telling them was correct.
And what was she telling them? What were they signing according to their knowledge and understanding?
They were signing a contract to start the training according to what she said, but only when they were in the trenches of Russia. That's when they understood that no, the form was not saying that they are there to train as the bodyguards, but they are coming there to assist in the fight, in the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Do the young men say how long, according to what you're telling us, Tutuzile Zuma Sambudla was there in Russia with them? Was there an interpreter, an English interpreter, at any point during their interaction with her and Russian officials?
Yes, they say there was the man who was interpreting, and also assisted by Tutuzile to give them comfort. As to how long she stayed there, I didn't follow that one very thorough, but she was there for some time just to make them to be comfortable.
So do they say who met them at the airport? As in, was it somebody who is an official of the Russian military? One wants to understand the level of state involvement, if at all.
No, they were accepted by the agent in Russia who was saying that he's standing for the government. And that we understand that that's the very same people that paid for them to get there.
Okay. So when they got to wherever they were taken to, as you say, it's only when they realized, when they were in the trenches, that they had basically waived their rights to whatever their understanding is, and that they were there to fight. What happened to them? Was there any form of abuse? What is their mental, physical, emotional health like following that experience?
What they told us is that after a 1 week training, they went to the trenches, but they find that's when they started to realize that no, they are not in the training, but they are now in the front lines of the war. Because when they were given guns to go to the war, to the trenches, that's when they understood that no, we are now fighting. We are no longer training. That's when they started getting harassed, because when they were saying, no, but we are not here to fight, we are here to train, they were told, no, we paid you for you to be here, not to be trained. This is where you are here.
How were they able to escape or leave Russia, given the fact that they'd signed over acquiescence to fight in the war? So meaning it sounds like there was a legal contract of sorts to keep them there fighting.
No, what has happened is that after they asked us to assist, we started talking to DECO and to the Minister of DECO to say, please assist. There are these men that we understand they were lured to get to Russia, and they've been trafficked there because now what they were promised is not what is happening. Then we started talking, and then the department started to engage, and then the minister started engaging also his counterpart that side. We managed to talk now and again until the minister and the president decided to talk to the Russian president to get them back. That's how they got back.
Okay.
In actual fact, they are not all back, only 4 are back, but the others are on the way.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Much appreciated. That there is Jabulani Kumalo, who speaks on behalf of the families of the young men who were lured, as he says, to Russia to fight on the front lines. But it was with the understanding when they initially left South Africa that they were getting training to be bodyguards. But as we know, the rest is a very sad history that is still ongoing for some. It brings the time to 21 minutes past 9.
Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K
or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Tamo kutuli bwanji ndi
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. And join the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. At the forefront, the most pressing issues on Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla.
Channel Africa.
22 minutes past 9, South African authorities have failed to protect whistleblowers who expose corruption and criminal activities in government and state-owned enterprises from attacks and killings. So says the Human Rights Watch. The organization says authorities need to conduct effective, prompt and impartial investigations to hold those responsible to account and to ensure justice for the victims and their families. And Nhlanhla Mahlangu has this report.
President Cyril Ramaphosa first made the commitment to finalize the whistleblower protection framework and introduce the Whistleblower Protection Bill in Parliament during last year's State of the Nation address. Human Rights Watch says 1 year later, this has not happened. It says during the State of the Nation address on the 12th of February this year, President Ramaphosa repeated a previous commitment to introduce a new whistleblower protection bill in Parliament, but the bill has not been passed. And as the killings in 2025 of 2 whistleblowers, Mpho Mafule and Marius van der Merwe, demonstrate, whistleblowers cannot afford more unfulfilled promises. Ashwanu Badu-Scott, Deputy Africa Director at Human Rights Watch, says the scale and frequency which whistleblowers are attacked and killed for exposing criminal syndicates and corruption is alarming and raises serious concern for their safety and protection in South Africa.
We've also seen in South Africa how there has been attacks against human rights defenders and whistleblowers, and case in point is the murder of the whistleblower for the Matlanga Commission, but also there's also the murder of Pamela Mabidi, the community activist and whistleblowers. And so this shows you the government has failed to protect those who are also coming out against other forces.
Whistleblower attacks in South Africa have a long history, with many whistleblowers over the past 2 decades being victims of targeted killings or abusive attacks.
And that's Nhlanhla Mahlangu reporting there, 24 minutes past 9. We continue with Africa World Hour. Hundreds of supporters of detained Ugandan opposition figure Kizza Besigye are continuing to hold a defiant prayer service in an effort to force authorities to free him. The 69-year-old politician made a brief appearance at the High Court in Kampala earlier today, where defense lawyers argued that prosecutors had made only a partial disclosure of evidence, preventing the court from setting a trial date. We speak now to UN AIDS Director and Mr. Besigye's wife, Mayor Winnie Byanyima. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Mayor Winnie.
Thank you for having me.
And I realize it's a sad moment to be speaking. And the last time we spoke, it was regarding Mr. Besigye's imprisonment. How is his condition? How was he in court today?
Well, he's been in prison for a year and 3 months, and every month we see him, his health is deteriorating. He's living under harsh conditions, and it's showing, it's taking its toll on him. So he looked weaker, but he was sound and talking with his lawyers.
And before we get to what happened in terms of today's proceedings, can you explain to us a little bit more about the conditions? You say harsh conditions.
Well, he's actually in solitary confinement because he's not allowed to speak to other prisoners. He's kept in a small cell that has only got a ventilator that lets in a little light and air at a point very high up. It has a high roof. There's very little air circulation in the room. It's very narrow. The bed is right on the wall. When he steps out of a bed, there's only standing room. He has a little courtyard outside that's concrete, no chair there. It's very small. He can walk around there to get some sun and then go back to his room. He doesn't pray with other prisoners. He doesn't play a game with them. He can't go and stretch himself and run around the yard like others. And then he cooks his own food. And his food, he has no refrigerator, nowhere to keep it. So he works with a few other prisoners to cook their own food and throw it away or give it away because they can't store it. The conditions are hard, and that's why he keeps falling ill from one thing to another to another.
Now let's look at today's proceedings. They were once again delayed. Are you able to share with us the cause of the delay? And, is it, from what you've explained in the past, part of a tactic to delay it as far as possible? Even you've gone as far as saying you believe that President Museveni wants to see your husband die in prison.
You know, this is not a prosecution, it's a persecution. The son of the president, General Muhoozi, he is also the commander of the Ugandan army, has said many times that he's going to kill him. Even choosing a date, he will kill him, even though it has passed. He has repeated his threat. Just last week, he said he's a walking dead man and that he's going to kill him. He repeats it. The president, who's been in power for 40 years, has lost any sense of the law and himself. What he wants becomes law. The Constitutional Court, for example, the Supreme Court, said that because he was a civilian, he should not be tried in a military court. He went to the parliament and said, well, I want him in a military court, change the law. And they changed the constitution for him. Fortunately, there's the law against retrospective trial. You cannot try someone retrospectively, so he is now in the civilian court. But he too has said many, many times that he's guilty and that he's going to be sentenced for treason, which is a life sentence or actually death. He now has ordered the Archbishop of my church not to say a mass for him. This is Lent. We Catholics go to church with our intentions and ask for masses. I asked for a mass to pray for my husband and other prisoners. He called up the Archbishop and said, I don't want you to pray for Besigye because he has a case to answer. The Archbishop said, but I don't care about the case. We pray for people. We don't pray for those who are saints. We pray for people, whatever it is about them. And he argued with him until the president said, okay, postpone it. I'm going to investigate this because it's becoming political. It's a political mass. So we're waiting for him to investigate a mass. So, but you can see that he's lost all sense of proportion, 40 years on. He hasn't got any sense of what is the law and what he should follow. It's what I want, and then it must happen.
And there are two things to look at here. As you say, there's the spiritual moral issue and what President Museveni has raised as a political issue. And amidst that, there's the issue of constitutional rights. Have the lines been blurred on all of these issues? And is there any recourse? Because I'm also thinking if the legal strategy is not working, what recourse is there? What would be the next strategy?
You know, the case against Dr. Besigye is political, treason. He's accusing him of wanting to overthrow his government. But the issue is that he's also not legitimately the president of the country. So it's like saying, I'm illegitimate, but you must not, but the law must apply if you try to overthrow me. So really, it's a political question that needs a political answer. We need free and fair elections. This is something he has denied Ugandans. This last election a few weeks ago has been condemned by the entire world. Everyone has condemned it except our African Union. What a shame. People were killed in one home. His soldiers came and killed 8 people in a candidate, a parliamentary candidate's home. 8 people were killed. In other places, many people are missing. Fraud was shown on TV with videos all over on social media. It's just, he stole it. And now he's going after Besigye and saying, you want to grab my power. But you also have grabbed it. So why don't you sit down on a table and discuss the future of the country with all those who are interested in political contestation? So instead of finding political solutions, he finds it easier to criminalize his opposition. Dr. Besigye is a peaceful man. I've never known him to do anything outside the law. I stand by him, but I know that President Museveni has always favored criminalizing those who oppose him. Besigye has faced treason. This is not the first time. This is like the third. Each time it's thrown out. President Museveni has accused him of treason 20 years ago. We fought the case. It was thrown out. I'm confident that if there was a free and a fair trial, Besigye would be acquitted. But now he's facing a biased judge, as we saw today.
The question then becomes, what role ought regional bodies play? Because you mentioned the African Union and the outcome of the election. In fact, the last time you and I spoke, you were challenging President Museveni to be bold enough to step down. That clearly hasn't happened. Is there any political pressure that can be brought to bear, whether it's the African Union, whether it's the United Nations, IGAD, or any of those institutions, particularly on the issue of judicial independence?
Absolutely, there is a role for the international community, and I want to say how grateful I am to some countries that have spoken out on this question of the incarceration of Dr. Besigye. The chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, the administration itself have put it clearly to Museveni that he should free his political opponent and not pursue political charges against him. So has the European Parliament. So have individual European parliaments. I believe they have told him, please seek political answers to political questions, stop criminalizing your opposition, free Dr. Besigye. So this has But we do need African institutions too. They don't work. When it comes to questions of human rights, I really find that African institutions have not stepped up. They tend to want to support those who are in power, whether they are there legitimately or not. The African Union endorsed those elections that everybody said were fraudulent. That was a shame on the African Union. But we have written to the African Commission of Human and People's Rights. We're going to fill in some more documentation. We want them to investigate. They should. Meanwhile, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has spoken out 3 or 4 times about this case of Dr. Kizza Besigye, about people who have been killed and disappeared. So we do see the global institutions standing in and speaking and telling Museveni what he needs to hear, but we have our own African institutions not doing that. So I do use your platform to speak to the African Union, step up, be the institutions for the people, not institutions for those who've captured power.
Mayor Winnie Benyuma, thank you so much for speaking to us, head of UNAIDS, and the wife of Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is being held at Luzira prison, whose condition, she says, is continually deteriorating based on the types of conditions, or rather the conditions under which he's being held. Dr. Besigye is being accused by prosecutors of soliciting funds and weapons in several international cities, a case which is farcical, Winnie Benyuma says, and is calling on regional and international actors to intervene for justice. Brings the time to 24 minutes to 10.
Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android.
The whole population of Africa has been shocked to the depth of its soul.
For 60 years, Channel Africa has been the voice that connects the continent, telling our stories and sharing our vision with the world. This year, we mark 6 decades of broadcast excellence.
60 years of stories, sound, and connection.
6 years of African conversations that matter.
This is 60 years of broadcast excellence.
Rooted in Africa's heartbeat and looking boldly into the future. Join Channel Africa as we celebrate 60 years of broadcasting. Still strong, still vibrant, and still giving you the African perspective.
Channel Africa.
1 hour, 1 continent, 1 voice. Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
The Frederick Naumann Foundation for Freedom Africa has raised the alarm over what it describes as a deepening crisis of statelessness in South Sudan, warning that the denial of citizenship and legal identity is stripping individuals of fundamental rights at a pivotal political moment. At the center of the concern is South Sudanese human rights defender and former lawmaker Animu Resasi Amitai, whose citizenship was revoked in 2018 without due process. To speak more about this, we're joined by the victim herself, Animu Resasi Amitai. Apologies, I shouldn't call you that. I'm sure there's a better way to describe you. And how would you describe what has happened to you?
I mean, it's deeply upsetting. And also, I mean, it's been a prolonged situation of statelessness. I was first deprived of my instruments of nationality, first in 2018. At the time, I was working with the former First Vice President, General Taban Dengai, as a speechwriter. And then there were reports, media reports that I was a non-national, that I was a Ugandan, baseless. And so essentially that meant loss of employment because of these media reports. But that didn't just stop there. It just didn't stop at loss of employment. Shortly after, immigration summons me and, without explanation, without a written document, formal process, even the opportunity to have an investigation. They just arbitrarily withdrew my instruments of nationality.
And
so not, yeah.
What happened? Were you told to leave the country? What happened?
At the time, no. They just took my documents, and naturally, because I thought this was wrong, I consulted a lawyer and initiated legal proceedings for a judicial review. The immigration obviously didn't show up, and the case was not put up for hearing. And then obviously when it escalated to life-threatening level in 2021, when I was appointed a member of parliament, that's when I also felt the need to escalate it to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, because I didn't have hope that I would get judicial legal remedies through our natural process, through our South Sudanese courts.
And you attained success with that, with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, ruling in your favor, but your nationality is still not being restored. Why is that?
I mean, it's more a legal and administrative obstacle than, a political and administrative obstacle. What we have met, the government has been silent and inaction from the government. We have no understanding why this is happening. Despite our best efforts, we've reached out to all of them, but we've just been met with silence. So this is even more concerning, given that, this African Commission decision is a landmark decision, and it goes beyond just the borders of South Sudan and also beyond my personal case. It's about many others that find themselves at risk of statelessness, which is quite common in South Sudan because of state secession, because of porous borders, and also a weak civil registry. So if a case that is publicly known, like mine, and has gone on for a long time, cannot find justice through the African human rights system, then who can,
And just tell me, what then has been the impact on your daily life? And I'd imagine you mentioned that initially it impacted on your work life as well. So how has it impacted on your daily life and working life now?
You can't imagine the toll that it takes on you, Statelessness is like a sort of prison. At least in the prison, it's even worse than prison, because in the prison, your status, whether you're on bail or you're, convicted. Statelessness is endless anxiety. You don't know if today is the day that an overzealous officer will block you from entering a certain public space, will arrest you, incommunicado. And it has happened to me, in the past, at least in the last 2 or 3 years. I've been arbitrarily detained, I was abducted, almost illegally deported. So that invisibility is terrible. I mean, I have to depend on the goodwill of well-wishers for a source of livelihood, for even basic necessities. But it's the constant humiliation, the indignity that you face, and you're not recognized. No one knows whether today is the day that they will say, no, what are you doing in this country? How are you in this country? And it's terrible, because I've had the South Sudanese nationality. I lawfully acquired it. So having to experience this really is very, very painful.
And do you believe that there is a specific motive when it comes to you, why you're being targeted?
I mean, I think the political aspect obviously plays a part, and because this we've witnessed only the question of my nationality only came up when there was high-level political office. So when I was in the office of the first vice president, and then she's not South Sudanese enough, and then so between 2018 and 2021, no one really cared about my nationality. And then when I got appointed in parliament, oh no, they've appointed a non-South Sudanese. So I think that we're seeing this trend where a lot of actors specifically are using nationality or weaponizing nationality as a tool to limit political participation. And for me, that is very, very worrying, because obviously, as you know, South Sudan is going to elections sometime in December 2026. And so to have a nationality certificate and ID are prerequisite documents to be able to participate in any type of public life. Just forget about a political process. So if that becomes a limiting factor, if we allow that type of precedent to take place, then when is the red line? What if tomorrow is, oh, she's too loud, then she's not South Sudanese enough, so we can withdraw. And I think this type of trend we are witnessing more and more, which is especially sad because this political process in South Sudan is essentially about belonging. The last time South Sudan had an election was in 2010. So a whole generation doesn't know how to vote, how to participate. And a lot of them can't afford IDs, can't participate in these processes.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us, and I do hope that we catch up with you again real soon. That is Anumu Esasi Amitai, who says she's been enduring statelessness as a result of accusations of her not being a legitimate South Sudanese national. And she says, of course, at the heart of it is political power contestation.
Africa World Hour. Africa World Hour. Unpacking global headlines from an African perspective.
Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android. Africa World Hour. Africa World Hour. Unpacking global headlines from an African perspective.
Now, in one of Southern Africa's harshest landscapes, the Richtersveld, scientists have uncovered something extraordinary. A completely new genus and 6 previously unknown species of beetles hidden in a desert many assume is almost lifeless. So we're joined now by those 2 scientists behind the discovery, Roman Borovic as specialist in beetle morphology and classification, and Massimo Meregali, an expert in weevil evolution and DNA analysis. Dr. Borovic, Dr. Meregali, a very good evening to you both, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much, and we are very happy to make this interview for South African Broadcasting Corporation.
Roman, let me start with you.
Good evening also from me.
So let me start with you, Roman. The discoveries of this brand new genus, it's extremely rare, but just how unusual is it to find not 1, but 6 new species at once?
Western part of South Africa is very dry, fine bush, karoo, succulent bush, semi-desert area. Collection of edaphic insects in these moderately difficult conditions is not easy. Edaphic insects are insects living in soil, in roots of various plants. It means to sift not humid, green habitats, but very dry places, many times even dry sand. Nobody before us tried to collect in these conditions by sifting of roots of plants. We were able to find method in our trips how to search for these small beasts and also how to find insects in the soil, which is not easy because they are mimetic, slowly moving. If they don't move and staying, you cannot see them. That is why material collected by us is very unique. And because we examined plenty of material in South African and also European large museum, we can say it is material nobody collected before us. These edaphic insects have in South Africa incredible species diversity. 6 new species we discovered in our last trip is thus based on our experiences to collect this material. And mainly we had possibility to visit localities and habitats nobody collected edaphic insects before us. One brand new genus is an example of very isolated population in mountains of the Richtersveld.
All right, let me ask Massimo this question then. Firstly, the naming of it, and also, why are Namaini weevils important scientifically? Do they matter?
Well, they live in the soil. They are isolated. phylogenetically also they are very isolated. So the knowledge of this group helps understanding the relationships which are spread between all the various groups of these weavers in South Africa, not only South Africa. But when we first collected the first ones, we thought they were belonging to a tribe Trachyphlaini because they are very similar. They have the very same kind of life. Then we make more investigation, and actually we discovered that they actually belong to an entire new tribe, completely isolated. So this means that this tribe has evolved independently from all the other tribes of the Antimini subfamily in South Africa. All the species that we have found, now we have many genera, not only the new genus and the 6 that we have discovered recently, but we have been working on this group for the last 10 years, 15 years. And so we have now many other new genera that we have described. So this is a completely isolated evolutive group. So this is why it's also phylogenetically very important to have recognized this lineage.
And I just want to then, as Massimo was speaking about evolution, Roman, so these beetles have been surviving blistering heat and extreme drought. What physical or behavioral adaptations or attribute would allow them then to survive where most insects would die?
Roman?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes. Did you hear the question, Roman?
It is difficult. Yeah. No. I think I understand why beetles are able to survive in this extreme drought. Yes?
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it is difficult to say. They are adopted for this life by their morphological characters. Their extremities are shorter and more robust in comparison with the other weevils from ground parts of plants. Their eyes are very small or even missing. They use special vesture for covering their body. But how they are adapt for life in dry and hot conditions, it is surely topic for many other observation in field. We know almost nothing about their bionomy and physiology. We know nothing. We don't have any observation of their life. We don't know where is their oviposition, where they have larvae and pupate. Their ability to survive in very dry habitats is very exceptional. One time I put the soil, sifting soil from South Africa, very near to hot heating, and I was able to observe and collect living weevils for 4 months. All other small arthropods and spiders and so on died during 1 week. These weevils were able to survive there for 4 months.
So, Massimo, I'm curious as to whether these species are specialists. Do they survive on particular plants, soils, or microclimates? And I also want to learn from you how you combine traditional morphology with modern DNA tools to prove that these species are genuinely new. They were previously unknown.
Well, this is quite interesting because, of course, we are using morphology since a lot of time. And the basic to discover if species are different is just comparing morphological characters. We have made also molecular analysis, but for deciding if a species is different, we have to check basically mitogenome, so cytochrome oxidases, which differs between species. So when you have very similar, morphological similar animals, then now it is possible to make a research with their cytochrome sequences. If you consider, for example, that all humankind, 8 billion people, our variation is about 0.2%, but we are different from the chimp, 8.9%. So this is a very, very good marker. And first of all, we are doing some morphological analysis. Then we also have to consider that these animals are very, very slow moving. They are not able to move from one place to another one. And so they are small population, isolated since a lot of time. And therefore, this is why they tend to become different species. The number of the specimens is probably not so high. So there are some genetical drift and other genetical mechanisms which lead to a quite quick speciation. Usually, if you are working with moving animals, you can try to make crossing and do these things, which is not always easy to do and also not always giving a perfect answer. But in this case, we are mainly working, because it's easier, with morphology. Then maybe I can speak later on if we have some time. We can do also some molecular analysis, but we did the molecular analysis in this group just to see the relationship, the phylogenetical relationship, so working at a different level from single species differences. But also we can also do the molecular analysis for discriminating about among different population and discovering different species which are very similar one another.
All right. So let me just very briefly, Roman, come to you on the issue of climate change and what it says really about ecosystems, climate stress. Is it possible that there were other Neomani species before and they became extinct? Roman?
Once more, please, question.
Is it possible that there were other Neomani species before and they became extinct because of, the changing climate, the various ecosystems we're seeing now?
Insects can react to small changes in their environment much earlier than humans can detect them, even with modern devices we have. Thus, extinction of some insect species can truly be an early warning to humans.
All right. Massimo, I'm going to end with you. There's the ethical dimension. Why was it so important that these beetles are recognized as coming from South Africa, particularly in your naming? Their type of specimens are going to be housed in the Dizong National Museum of Natural History rather than overseas. Why was that important for you?
Well, we are quite aware that quite often Africa has been exploited by entomologists or zoologists or botanists from all over the world who went to these countries, grabbed everything and took to Europe or to America or Japan, just describing things and keeping things for themselves. We would like to do something more ethical. I mean, these animals are belonging to South Africa. So this is why we are decided to name one genus after the Nama people, because it's their material. We named another new genus after Khoisan people, because, this is your true heritage. And this is also why we are not keeping our types in Europe. We keep part of material if we have many, but if we have a single or very few ones, we are depositing them to Pretoria National History Museum, because we think that they belong to South Africa. So we are studying this material because we have a lot of knowledge, and so this is also quite exciting for us. Also, traveling in this incredibly wonderful country is beautiful. But leaving the material to South Africa means that we are cooperating with you. We are not stealing anything from Africa.
Right.
But our important thing is to cooperate with Africa.
And that's a very important note to leave it on. I thank you both for taking the time to speak to us. It's really an honor and a privilege. That is Dr. Roman Borovic, specialist in beetle morphology and classification, as well as Dr. Massimo Meregali, an expert in weevil evolution and DNA analysis. So 6 new beetles have been discovered by these 2 esteemed gentlemen. An extraordinary find, and that was done in Richtersveld. And that's how we end Africa World Hour this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Do enjoy the rest of your listening, viewing here on Channel Africa. Up next is Shayla Ndikumana and African Diaries team.
Conversations that touch the heart and inspire change. Here on African Diaries, only on Channel Africa. Join us on www.channelafrica.co.za.